Not this weekend, this past weekend, 2 weekends ago. As you know, Artem Lobov fought Cub Swanson in the main event of UFC Fight Night Nashville. Ended up losing that fight, but as I said last Monday on the show, thought he gained a hell of a lot of respect from the MMA community. A lot of people who were unwilling to give him respect going into the fight. So a week removed, I wanted to talk to him about that experience and his thoughts on the fight and where he goes from here. And he is now joining us via the magic Skype. There he is, the Russian Hammer, the prospect killer himself, Artem Lobov. Artem, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much, Ariel. Thanks for having me on the show again.
A pleasure as always. Do you mind moving your camera down just a little bit? Because I see like sort of most of your face, but not all of it. So I like to see, there we go. There we go. Now I get to see your chin as well, that famous chin of yours. So like I said, Artem, 9 or so days removed. Do you agree with the statement that, yeah, you did lose that fight fair and square. It was a fun fight of the night. But in the end, your stock almost went up. It feels like the MMA community no longer views you as Conor's friend, Conor's lackey. You're now your own person. You finally earned that respect from the community. Do you feel that way as well?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'm just kind of, obviously upset, I lost, so I don't really see it probably that way.
Okay.
To me, I was going into the fight, to try and win, obviously. That's why I called for the fight. And I genuinely thought that I could win. Obviously, I didn't. So, I'm still trying to get over that.
So no more moral victories for you, right? You're not taking no silver linings. You're not looking at it like us.
No, never. I would never look at any fight like that. To me, if I'm going in, I'm going in to win. If you don't win, well, that's it. I have to. Obviously, I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to, cry about it. Like I said, I'm an earner and I'm a go-getter. So I have to look over the mistakes, have to fix them, and I'm going to keep moving forward. And hopefully one day I meet Cub again.
Have you rewatched the fight on television?
I've watched some bits of it, and me and my coach have been in contact as well. So, kind of talking about some of the things that I did wrong and some of the things that I did right as well. So I have seen bits of it, yeah.
Well, I'm just curious how you scored it. I thought you won the first round. Some people disagree with me, and then I thought he won the rest. How did you score it?
No, I definitely thought I won the first round. I felt very comfortable in the first round, and kind of, if I was to take any of the positive, that would be it. That when our energies were level, technique-wise, I was able to hang with him, no problem. Now, I have to address me getting tired. I felt that I kind of blew my gas very quickly, even though my preparation was very, very good. I'm not sure whether maybe the occasion got to me or I spent too much energy or something. I don't know what happened there, but I seem to have slowed down pretty quickly. So it's something that I have to address in my future fights. Now, I will say that I did come into this fight bigger than normally because my last weight cut was quite easy against Ichihara. So I thought, why not put on some muscle and, get a little bit bigger, which I had done. And I've been the biggest I've ever been before, whilst being the leanest as well. So maybe I was carrying a bit too much muscle, but, that's just kind of me thinking for my own personal things to work on and improve on.
What was it like being in your first UFC main event? You mentioned maybe, the moment getting to you or things like that. All eyes were on you. You were on the poster, fighting last 5 rounds. In hindsight, do you feel like you handled it well, or do you think that it did get to you a little bit?
No, to be honest, like coming up to it and everything, and even walking out and all, I felt very, very calm and it felt very natural. It felt like this is where I want to be, and this is where I feel quite comfortable. So, yeah, it felt good.
You mentioned your coach. John Kavanagh wasn't in your corner. How much did you miss him?
To be honest with you, like I always say, at that stage, it's about fighting. At that stage, if you've cut the corners, if you didn't put the work in, then it doesn't matter who you have in your corner. It's not going to help you. And I did put the work in. So, it also didn't really matter, who I had there. At that time, it's just fight. And to be honest, I had Owen Roddy in the corner. He is just as good, He is a very experienced fighter himself and a very, very experienced coach. He knows my style well. He knows what I do well. So, it was great having him in the corner. So I don't feel that had any impact at all on the outcome of the fight.
And for those that don't know, apparently, according to his social media post, John had planned a trip long ago to Australia, and then you got this fight, and I guess he couldn't change his plans, so he couldn't be there in Australia. Were you in contact with him in Nashville, things like that, or once you got there, you're there with Owen, you're there with the rest of your team, and you didn't, even though he's been your head coach for so long, did you not need to talk to him because he wasn't there physically?
I know, sure, we're always in contact, with him, and anything I need, I can always message him, and then he'll get it sorted for me. But,
Okay.
like I said, I fought without John in my corner plenty of times.
Uh-huh.
The whole Ultimate Fighter, I fought without John as well. So,
True.
It's not something that is a must for me.
Yeah.
Of course, I like having him in the corner, but if he's not there for whatever reason, he's unable to make it, it doesn't impact me in any way. It doesn't hinder my confidence or anything. I feel just as fine.
Was Cub tougher than you thought he would be?
Yeah, one thing was that kind of, I guess not surprised me, but like one of the things that I can take away from the fight is, at some point where we kind of both felt tired, he just kind of pushed through it, and I guess I decided to maybe take a little break or something. It's a weird state of mind you have when you're in that octagon. You have to think quickly, and it's very easy to make the wrong decision. Maybe at some point I thought maybe I can get a little breather here, but he really capitalized on that and really pushed the pace, and that made me even more tired then. So that's one thing that kind of surprised me a little bit about him, was his ability to just kind of push through and just keep going and going and going and keep the high pace, because he kept a very high pace, I felt.
Did he say anything to you after the fight?
No, I don't think it was anything, like maybe just the usual, like good fight, whatever. Thanks for the fight. The same as something that I would tell him as well.
Yeah.
But there was nothing serious exchanged.
Well, just because, concerning the fact that, you were sort of calling him out, and then he said he's going to teach you a lesson. So there was a little friction there. Do you feel like you earned his respect? And do you even care at this point?
I guess you'd have to ask him whether I earned his respect or not. But, there's always friction, like where are you going in to fight each other? You know what I mean? You have to be in a certain mindset. And my goal is to give the fans a good fight. And for me to do that, I have to be in a certain mindset. I couldn't be, going in there holding hands with the guy. You know what I mean? I have to have a certain, I have to have a certain mindset. I have to have a certain expectation from the fight. I have to be preparing for a war, and I can't be all nice and nice to the guy if I am going to do that. So, but once it's all said and done, there's nothing but respect, and I spoke about it before, and, Cub, he always shows up, he always brings it, and he did once again. So he had my respect before the fight, and he has it after. So
he apparently broke his hand in the fight. Did you sense that at any point?
Not really, but to be honest with you, this is from a guy that's broken his hands, a few times in the past, and even I have accepted fights while having a broken hand. It's not a big deal, honestly.
Really?
Broken hand is nothing. Like in there when you're fighting, it's honestly, it's absolutely nothing.
Wow, you don't feel the pain. You only feel it maybe when you get to the back or the next day.
Well, when you get into the back, and actually one of the times I because I had previously broken my hand, and you keep punching, so the bone was a little bit like crooked.
Oh my!
So when I broke another hand, I was aware of it. As soon as I took my glove off, I got John to straighten out the bone. Got him to push down on my hand, and that actually got it really nice and straight. Because after, when I got an X-ray, the doctor told me that my coach had done a very good job straightening it, and as a result, I don't need surgery, and it just healed itself.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was that?
I think this one was. I remember I broke my hand against when I fought Saul. One of the first punches I threw, I broke my hand, and then I broke my hand as well against another Polish guy that I fought. I forgot his name. Kamil Gnatic, his name was.
Okay.
And that was the second time. So that time, John straightened out my hand. I just took the glove off quickly, and I placed my hand on a table, and I got him to kind of push down on it a little bit on the bump, and he straightened the bone out pretty nicely. So,
wow. That is amazing. Who knew? Who knew John had those skills? Speaking of your career, Artem,
yeah.
you know, so you just proved that you can hang with the fourth best featherweight in the world in Cub Swanson. I know in the past you've talked about, you know, taking fights that you probably shouldn't have taken above your weight and all this kind of stuff just to try to make it in your career and eventually get to the big show. Now that you've proven this, but yet when someone just looks at your resume and like, oh, this record, this isn't a Hall of Fame record. This isn't a record to write home about. It's essentially a 500 record. Do you have regrets? Do you almost wish that you didn't take those fights because you're not that fighter, that your record doesn't necessarily tell the story of who you are, but you had to take fights for various reasons as you were climbing the ladder?
Not really, no, because I mean, to me, that's just your record is where you've been, but it's not necessarily where you are or where you are going. You know, so that just shows that I had a tough road. You know, I've taken fights that when others wouldn't, and that's that. But at the moment, you know, like you said yourself, I showed that I can hang with, you know, the number 4 guy in the world. So. You know, I guess that shows where my skill level is at. And I guess that's what, if you're a true MMA fan, you should assess somebody by their skill rather than by where they've been or how they got the skill.
And so now where do you view yourself, and perhaps where do you think the UFC views you? Because there's a big gap, as you know, between the Cub Swansons of the world and the Chris Avilas of the world. You know, like, do you think you're going to have to go back down there and work your way back up? Do you think you'll fall in the middle? Do you want to remain in that, you know, sort of Cub territory? What do you think happens next now? Because it's a very unique thing for a guy who's unranked to fight someone who's that highly ranked and go toe-to-toe, not win, but still, like I said, gain a lot of respect, have your moments, win a round, etc. What do you think happens?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, one thing I will say, I don't feel I'm in a position now to obviously ask for fights.
Sure.
So I'll just take whoever I'm given.
Okay.
You know, I'll message Sean and I'll say, look, I'm ready to fight. And that's what I always do. I say, whoever you want to give me, I'm ready to go. You know, obviously I asked for Cub before because I felt I was in a position to ask for someone. And I thought if I'm going to ask for someone, I might as well make it count.
Yeah.
And ask for somebody really good. That's why I asked for Cub. But I'm not in that position anymore. So now I'm just going to go back to accepting whoever they give me.
Okay.
And that's going to be really up to them, you know. Whoever they want to give me, it's a yes from me.
I know typically you like to return relatively quickly. How about now? Do you want to take a break or do you want to come back fast?
Yeah, probably come back fast. You know, my only issue is obviously I have to see what this Conor Mayweather situation is at.
Okay.
Because, you know, if that's going to happen, that's going to be a very big training camp. It's going to be something that I'll take very seriously. And I wouldn't want to be distracted during it.
Okay.
With my own fights, especially if it's MMA fights and we're getting ready for boxing. So that will be a factor, obviously. So I have to find out what the situation is with that. I don't know yet.
What do you got? Break some news for us, Artem. Tell us what's happening. What's the status? What's the latest? What do you got?
Well, like I said, I didn't talk to Conor about that just yet. But you know, last I knew when I was leaving to go to when I was going to Nashville, it seemed to be very close, and it seemed to be, you know, in the pipeline. That seemed to be the next move.
Okay.
So you know, that's what I was getting ready for.
And what role would you play in a boxing training camp?
Probably the usual role. You know, we're going to do a lot of sparring. You know, there's always, every camp, there's supposedly all these new guys coming in specifically to mimic, but then I end up sparring Conor every damn time. Every time. So only one camp I didn't spar him was the Diaz fight.
Oh.
That's it. Every other camp, it's always been me.
The second Diaz or the first Diaz?
Both of them.
Oh, really? Why? Why is that?
Well, I guess that would be like, you know, normally guys are around my height at least.
Yeah.
And I can fight both stances, so I can really mimic anyone. But Diaz, I mean, he would be, you know, very, very tall, obviously, and a lot more reach than me. So he is quite a unique style. So I guess that was the reason.
This video that came out of you two, I guess you were sort of, you weren't really sparring, but he was kind of holding mitts, but there weren't mitts. I think he was just kind of sticking out his hands. He was wearing gloves, and then you were sort of reciprocating outside. You were somewhere. You were on the street or something. Where was that video of you and Conor?
Yeah. It was just outside Conor's house.
That's what it's come down to? You don't get time with him in the gym? It's only outside his house?
No, it's more, you get to concentrate more because there's no distractions there.
Right.
It was just, out in his house, in the garage, the weather was nice. We don't get spoiled with the sun over here in Ireland. So when we do see it, you got to enjoy it. So we just done it. Why not? On the street, no distraction, nice weather, fresh air. What else do you need?
I'd love to be like the 60-year-old neighbor of Conor McGregor who comes out, for a walk with his dog or something and sees you two going at it on the street. No one stops you at all while you're doing this?
No. What? People are quite understanding, and they, well, he lives in a closed off estate as well, so it's.
But there are people around, right? There are some other houses.
Yes, there are people around here, but he's been there for a while now, I guess. So the neighbors know, they know when it's work time. It's work time. You gotta work. This is what pays the bills. So you gotta put the work in.
I know you said that you're not in a position to call anyone out, and that's what I'm asking you right now. But in your mind, is there some fight that makes sense for you that you would say, oh, I hope they offer me this?
Maybe I can take the Doo Ho Choi now.
Oh,
the Korean Superboy.
Wow.
I mean, why not? I mean, that's he was one of the guys that I called out originally. It was him or Cub. Now we both lost to Cub. The two of us went the distance. The two of us got the fight of the night. So why not?
Okay.
Makes sense, no?
All right. I like that one. I like that one a lot. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy you said it. By the way,
it's all about good fights,
That's right. Robert Whiteford was tweeting you today saying, tell the people about some kind of date, some kind of plan that you guys have. Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I seen online. He obviously wants to fight me at the UFC Glasgow. But I don't know. Is he back in the UFC, or what's the story with him? Like,
I don't think he's officially back just yet. I think he's pushing for it.
But that's the thing, if Sean Shelby sends me his name, it will be a yes for me. I don't turn down fights. But I'm like back in the day when Rob was making his way into the UFC. I remember talking to Sean Shelby, and he said to me that he's looking at the Rob as one of the potential guys from Europe that he would sign. So then I really wanted to fight Rob. I was like, well, I got to get my hands on Rob. And I was even talking to the matchmaker in Dean, Cage Warriors, where Rob had a fight scheduled between him and Fishgold. And I remember messaging him saying, look, this fight is not going to happen. One of the guys is going to pull out. I want to be standing for that fight. And sure enough, that fight didn't happen. One of the guys got injured. I offered, to step in, but, the fight didn't happen at the time. They wouldn't accept the fight. But right now, I'm not a big guy on, accepting guys that are outside of the UFC.
Right.
Because I had to make that way into the UFC myself. And I would never really call out a guy that's in the UFC while I'm not in the UFC, unless it was a short notice replacement that they needed.
Uh-huh.
So if he makes it back in, if they sign him again and they send me that contract, it's a yes from me. Because I'm telling you, I don't even look at the names on those contracts. I just sign them and I send them back right away.
Wow.
That's how it is from me. So
I love it. Well, kudos to you, Artem. I thought, great showing, and it was really cool afterwards to see a lot of people who had doubted you, who had sort of mocked the fact that you were in a main event against Cub Swanson, come out publicly and give you those props. And I know that doesn't mean anything to you. It's not a W, and you're not in for moral victories, but I thought that was a really nice gesture. And it's great to see that people are seeing you for who you are as a fighter, and not just as Conor's training partner. You are your own guy, and you certainly deserve to be there. So like I said, kudos. Looking forward to your return whenever that may be, and appreciate you coming on as always, even coming off a loss here and talking about what, in hindsight wasn't the most memorable night of your career, but still I thought a nice little feather in your cap.
Thank you very much, Ariel. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you soon. There he is, the Russian Hammer, Artem Lobov, coming off that fight against Cub Swanson. I like the idea of Doo Ho Choi. That would be fun. That would be a lot of fun. Got to respect his take on fighting. Doesn't even look at the name on the contract. Bout agreement, just signs it. Pretty amazing stuff. Always appreciate him coming on. Always love talking to Artem.